Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Opeyemi Goddess and you're very much welcome. I feel so guilty. I know I've been away for like 1 month, I think. I don't know, but I know I've been away for a while. Guys, I'm so sorry. I've been very busy. And thank you guys for still sending in your questions as always. I mean, my DM is always blowing up as always, but yeah, I appreciate the fact that you still check up on me and the fact that you still ask me questions anyways. And if you have observed, in recent times I actually just make videos from questions that people ask me regularly, and that's because when I make the video, when people ask me the same question, subsequently I just send them the link to the video. So I'll be doing the same today. I'll be talking about renting in the UK, what you need to consider, the tips you need to know, the hacks, if there's anything like that, like renting hacks in the UK. But yeah, as always, I would just teach you what you need to know as regards renting and accommodation in the UK, especially for new immigrants. You guys know that I'm also like fairly new in the UK. Okay, so the first thing that you need to know, like if you want to rent in the UK, especially if this is your first time of renting in the UK, if you're a new immigrant, the first thing you need to know is your budget. Like, so you want to know what you can afford, and you have to be financially ready, because renting, I know that ideally renting should take about 30% of your income monthly, but the truth is sometimes it takes 50% of your income, especially if you live in London or close to London. So you have to be prepared, you have to be financially ready for that, and you need to have a budget, like how much do I want to spend for accommodation per month from my income. So having a budget is very key, because that will now lead you to know the kind of accommodation that you can actually afford. You get? So that's the first thing. The next thing you should now start doing, now that you have a budget, is to start searching. And in the UK, it's very easy to search for an accommodation. You just go online and then you search. So now, if you're looking for, I know for students, which is what is advisable anyways, for students, they would rather just go for a shared house. In my previous videos, I've actually mentioned this a lot of times, and I feel like by now you probably know what a shared house is all about. So for students, a lot of them would rather go for a shared house, like a room in a shared house, which is actually amazing because it is actually cost effective. It is more affordable than going for a bigger apartment. So if you want to go for a shared house, just go to spareroom.co.uk. I'll leave the link or the details on the screen. And if you want to go for regular accommodation, so like one bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, there are websites where you can actually check to search for those kind of accommodation. So you can check Zoopla is my favorite, but we have a lot of them in the UK. There's Zoopla, there is Rightmove, there's On the Market. They have a lot of websites like that which are genuine, and that's where you actually go for your house hunting or your house search. And I like Zoopla especially. By the way, this video is not sponsored by Zoopla, but really I just like Zoopla because of the picture quality. That's actually the only thing why I like Zoopla. I like the fact that the pictures are always of good quality, so I can actually see for real how the house looks like. The other websites are also good, like they're equally good, but the quality isn't like so sharp and bright like Zoopla. But that's the only downside to other websites. All of them are equally good, and yeah, so start searching for the house that you want. Now, when you start searching, what do you look out for? I mean, when you're searching online, because it's not like you just be roaming around the streets and you're like, is this house available? Is this flat available? No, you have to check online. And before you go ahead to book for viewing, what I do and what I recommend that you do is, okay, so you've searched online, you've seen the accommodation you like online, in quotes, you've seen it, you've seen the pictures, and you seem to like the house. Don't forget that sometimes, not even sometimes, a lot of times, what you see online, as per pictures, what you see is not always what you would end up seeing when you go for viewing. And that's because you guys already know that pictures would, especially if you use an iPhone, with an iPhone, and even with the kind of phones that we all use these days, everything just looks better than it is in real life. I mean, you guys know this already. So bear in mind that fine house, that well organized house on online in real life, you might not look that beautiful, but let's even leave that by the side. Let's even say, oh, the house you've seen online will end up, looking exactly like what you've seen online by the time you see it in real life. So let's just assume that's going to happen. But before you go ahead and book a viewing when you're searching for a house online, the things that I feel are very important for you to note or to consider. Number one, is that house closer or very close to the places that you frequently go to? So for instance, let me use myself as an example. If I'll be looking for an accommodation, the places I go to frequently are probably, not even probably, I know the places I go to frequently. First on the list is my place of work, my workplace. So if I'll be renting, I would probably I would definitely be looking for an accommodation that is closer to my workplace, because that's where I go to most of the time. But of course, I also want somewhere very close to the town center, so that when I go for my groceries, when I go for my regular shopping, I would not have to probably take the bus, or I wouldn't have to walk down so much to get to the town center. Now, if I have kids, I will be considering the proximity of the house to my children's school. Do you get my point? So those are the things to consider. How close is that accommodation to your school now? Yeah, especially for international students. Is it close to your school, or you have to take a bus, for you to get to school, or you have to take a taxi, or you have to take Uber, to get to school from that accommodation? You don't want to be spending so much money. You guys know that I like saving money, right? Well, I still like spending money, but I do more of saving. So you don't want an accommodation that is so far from the places that you frequently go to. So you want to consider how close it is to the town center. I'm not saying you have to live in the town center. Obviously, you would not live in the town center. But you still want somewhere that is, a bit close to the town center. So you want to look at town center. I mean, proximity to town center. You want to look at proximity to your workplace or your school, as the case may be, or even both. You want to look at proximity to your children's school if you have kids. So those are the things you consider. Another thing that you should consider, some other things you should consider, is how close is that accommodation to, say, the train station. Okay, so I live in Essex, and a lot of people who live in Essex work in London. So, and that, which automatically means that they go to London by train, which is 30 minutes away from here, or 35 minutes away from here, or even 25 minutes away from here by train. Okay, so if you, I'm using my own situation as an example. So for instance, if I work in central London, I would definitely want my house or my accommodation to be close to the train station, so that from the train station, maybe in 5 minutes I'll be home right from the train station, or 5 minutes from the time I leave home, I'll be at the train station, and then I can catch the next train to, say, central London. I'm actually just using that as an example. For your own situation, it might be different, but those are the things to consider. How close, is that accommodation to, the vibes of the city as well. So especially if you don't drive. Now, if you drive in the UK, trust me, no place is actually like very, very far like that. Yeah, you may not really need to consider proximity if you drive. I know a lot of people who live very far from their workplaces. I know people who live like 40 minutes away from their workplaces, or 50 minutes drive, not even walking distance, like driving distance. But if you drive, so that would not really matter. But if you don't drive, you may want to consider, some of these things that I've mentioned. Okay, another thing that I check, I don't know if people check this, but this is something I check, and it's very personal. I just like to check this. Guys, sometimes I think I act like an FBI agent. There are times I feel like maybe when next I come to this world, I might just become an agent, FBI agent now. Do you get? So another thing I check when I'm looking for an accommodation is the fact that, so I go on Google, like for instance, so say I've considered, the places that I go to frequently, and okay, so say this is the best postcode that will fit my schedule. What I do is I type that postcode on Google, and then I check for the crime rates in that postcode. Yes, I know, but I'm just like that. I'm very, very safety conscious, and I know that no place is like 100% like crime free or 100% perfect. But I still don't want to live in a place that had like 99.9999999% crime. So what I do is, when I get the postcode, after reviewing the other factors that I mentioned earlier, then I just go on Google, type that postcode, and then say, oh, the crime rates in this postcode, I'll just mention the postcode, and then I can now have like the statistics of the crimes that normally happen in that area or that normally like occur in that area. So, and then I don't just check for what has happened in the past, like say 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I'm very, very like deliberate when I ask Google questions. There are times that I'm very, very like, I'm very precise and I streamline my question. So I can say, so in the last 1 week, what crimes have been recorded in this postcode? Do you get? So, because I just want to have an idea of the recent crimes that happen in this postcode. So if the crimes are like something not so bad, if it's like stealing, stealing, the mini crimes. I know like there's nothing like mini or minor or major crime is crime, but some are still negligible. But when I see something like stabbing, like someone was stabbed yesterday in that neighborhood, one person was stabbed yesterday in that neighborhood, someone was killed in that neighborhood, or drug dealers did this with somebody in that neighborhood 2 months ago, then I stay clear. So that's one thing I do, but it's just a plus. You may not consider all of that, but I do. Okay, so when you've done all your background check, okay, and then you're satisfied with all of that, then you can now book a viewing. Booking a viewing is very easy. On that same website, there would be options, like I think 2 options or even more. One is to email the agent, another one is to call the agent directly, and it's just redirect you to calling the agent or emailing the agent, as the case may be. So when you do that, then you book for some of these houses. Right there and there, you can actually just pick a date. Like if you click on book a viewing, there will be available dates shown, and then you just pick the one that is most convenient for you. So you book the viewing and then you are going to see the house. So when you get to the venue, please, this is the part that in your head, just imagine that you're a plumber, you're a carpenter, you're a builder, you're just everything. So you have to be very, very observant. When you get to the house, turn on the tap. Just check, like the way that a builder would check a house. Just assume that you're a builder or you're a civil engineer or something. Try as much as possible to be very observant. So when you get to the accommodation, knock on the walls, look at the roof, be sure nothing is leaking, turn on the tap, turn on the heater, just to be sure everything is actually working. You don't want to make payments and then you get into the house, after moving, you now realize that the boiler is bad, there's no hot water. Like, you don't want to try that, especially in winter. You want to be very sure that all these amenities are in place. So when you go for viewing, check everything and then ask questions. Don't be shy to ask questions. Ask ridiculous questions like, okay, the last tenants, do you know why they left? They might not know, but do you know why the last tenant left? Blah blah blah. Just ask questions. I'm always very inquisitive, so this is what I do, and you might just want to do the same. So check everything, knock on the walls. You just want to know. Okay, so check everything. Check if the painting is still intact. Whatever your mind tells you to do, just do when you're viewing the house or viewing the accommodation. Okay, so if you're happy with whatever you've seen, then you can now accept the offer or apply to rent the house. So when you do that, the next thing the landlord or the agent will do is the fact that they will do their own background check. This might take forever, and I hate the fact that this takes forever. You would think after viewing the house, you've made your request known. They already know you like the house and you want to go ahead and make payments. No, you would think that by the following day you should be able to move in. No, it doesn't work that way. They will do a background check, and that can take another 1 week or even 2 weeks or even 3 weeks. So this is like the waiting time where you're like, are they giving the house to somebody else? Like, am I still eligible? But most times they just like to do like a background check, be sure that you're not a criminal, that you're eligible to live in the UK. They also check your income. So this is the time that they will ask for your pay slip. They will ask for a few other things. Yeah, maybe your resident permit. They will ask for a few other things just to be sure that you can actually afford that house, going forward. Because even if you pay 1 month rent, they want to be sure that going forward you'll be able to afford to live in that house. Okay, so don't panic and don't be afraid when they don't get back to you like the following day. You may just ring them like few days after and ask what's going on, but don't panic. They're actually just doing a background check. Now, another thing you should note is the fact that they ask for deposits. Most times they do, sometimes they don't, but a lot of times they do ask for deposits, and this is because when you're living, so your deposits will be equivalent to 1 month rent. So say you want to move into a house, let's say the house is say 600 per month. So bear in mind that you'll be paying like 1,200 for 1 month rent and then for your deposits. But what they do is when you leave the accommodation, your landlord or the agent will return your deposits to you on one condition: if the house is still in the same condition that it was when it was given to you. So that's the condition. And this is the part that I really hate. I mean, if you've lived in a rented apartment for like 4-5 years, it will never be the same as it was when it was given to you. So the chances that you get your deposit back may be very slim, especially if you live in that accommodation for a very long period of time. But just for you to know that you'll be paying deposit, okay? A lot of times they do ask for deposit. Few times they don't, but a lot of times they do ask. So just prepare for that. And that's why you need to be financially ready before you go ahead to rent a house, okay? Another thing they do, and I know they do this for international students because this just happened recently to a younger friend of mine who came for his master's degree. So some landlords, because they know you're not working, they're like, how is this person going to be able to afford paying the rent going forward, even though they can afford to pay this month's rent? So they can ask for 3 months rent upfront. I know this is ridiculous because how are you supposed to have that much money with you? 3 months rent. So what they would say is, it's either you pay 3 months rent upfront or you pay for 1 month, but then you bring a guarantor. So that's what this younger friend of mine had to do. So I had to stand in as a guarantor for him. But the downside to this is, guys, renting in the UK is very tedious. The downside to this is, now I stood in as a guarantor, okay? That is not the only thing. They almost asked for my father's pay slip. I mean, they were just asking for everything. My pay slip, everything about me, where I live, utility bills, my employer. They asked for all of that. And I was happy to, to submit all of that. I mean, I was happy as long as they would let him pay for 1 month, because that's actually what he could afford. But I was actually happy to submit all my other documents for them to proceed to, giving him the house. You know what they did? They actually reached out to my employer to be sure that I work for that organization. I'm like, are you guys okay? You have to go that far? Like, for real? So if you know that, especially for students, if you know that you won't have enough money for 3 months rent, you would just need a guarantor. So get ready, because they'll need a guarantor, and they would really verify that truly that guarantor works in the said organization. Another thing they also asked my employer, in this case it was my line manager, another thing they actually asked my employer was the fact that, do I earn what I said I was earning? Because when I completed the form, the guarantor form, they actually told me to input my salary, which I did, but they also called to verify that truly I was earning that amount. So guys, it's actually very ridiculous. Just be prepared for that. Another thing that I know people do is when they can't afford, because in the UK they expect that your rent should be like 30% of your income per month. So if, for instance, you're going for a 3-bed and it's like 1,300 and you earn 1,600 per month pounds, do you get? They would most likely not give you the house. So what people just do, they get other friends and then they can merge their pay slip so they can live together for say a month or two, and then the person can move out, and then they can just continue living alone in that house. So anyways, those are the things you should consider. Another thing you should consider when you're renting is the fact that a lot of landlords and agents, they have preferences. Yes, there are times they will say no pets. Okay, for instance, we went to view your house recently, and when we got there, the agent was like, oh, do we know that the house has preferences? We normally don't even check for preferences, but they were like, oh, no smoking, no pets. So we were like, oh, we don't even smoke and we don't have pets. So, and that's why for us, we rarely check preferences, because a lot of times when they have preferences, it's always like, some will say, oh, no smoking, some will say no pets, some will say no kids, some will say, what other thing? I think it's, no kids, and some will say couples are not allowed. So I think those are the frequent preferences I see. So just make sure that you check the preferences. For instance, if you're married and you're looking at getting a 1-bed and they say, oh, no couples, but you've not checked to see, and then you go for viewing and realize that, oh, that's actually a preference. And when they say preference, they're actually very serious about it. So these are the things that you should also consider. Okay guys, the last thing that you should consider, I feel like this video is getting too long, but the last thing that you should consider now is the fact that, okay, so you've signed the contract, you're happy with the house, blah blah blah, they've given you the keys. Of course, someone will accompany you to the house, say an agent or the landlord, whoever, they will accompany you to the house. What you should do before you do the final signing is the fact, this is a tip, okay, but it is very 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 serious. If you don't do this, you may not get your deposit back, but this is something that people do now, because you have to be also aggressive about this thing so that you get your deposit at the end of the day. So what people do is, when you go to the house, make a video of the current situation of the house, because there are times that you are about leaving and then the landlord will say, oh, you spoiled my cabinet, you spoiled my wardrobe, you spoiled this, you spoiled that, the walls were not this cracked when you moved into the house, now the walls are cracked. They will just look for one ridiculous thing to say, and there are times that they're actually very true as well, they're like honest. So, but to be on the safe side, just to be sure that you're not cheated, please make a video. This is something that I encourage people to do, and I know people also do it. Make a short video of the current situation of the house. The video doesn't necessarily have to be very long, but just like a snapshot of everything, just to be sure that when you're leaving, if your landlord says, oh, you spoiled this and this and that, and I won't give you your deposit back, you're like, oh, hey landlord, I've got my receipts. And then you can now show the landlord your evidences. So that's something you should do, which I suggest. Okay, and then sometimes when you're signing the contract, so they will give you like an inventory of everything in the house. A lot of times people don't go through the inventory, they're just like, oh, they just sign, because sometimes the inventory might be very very long, especially for furnished houses. Please go through that inventory and be sure that everything that is written on that inventory actually, is actually present in that house. For instance, if the landlord or the agent says, oh, there's a refrigerator, there's this, there's blah 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 blah, and in the real sense there's actually maybe no refrigerator, I'm just using that as an example. If you've not gone through the inventory, you wouldn't know, and then you have signed the contract. So when you're moving out and the landlord is saying, oh, but you signed that there's actually a refrigerator in this house, so how come there's none anymore? So that is another way they would say, okay, so because a refrigerator is missing, we'll not be giving you back a deposit. So please, when you're going to the inventory, don't just scan through it. Actually look and see that everything on the inventory is actually present in that accommodation. So I think these tips will help you. I really hope I have not missed out anything. I don't think I have. If I have, then I'll probably just put the other tips in the comment section. Thank you so much guys for watching. I really love you guys for the love, you guys, you're amazing. Okay, so don't forget to share as always, like, and subscribe. If you had subscribed, why have you not subscribed? Please subscribe to my channel, show me some love, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.